Ferrari arrived at Suzuka needing a breakthrough, yet the most dangerous thing about them right now is that they may be getting stronger while Mercedes still look in control. That is the contradiction hanging over this weekend. 2 races into the 2026 season, the standings say one thing, the mood inside the paddock says something else. Hamilton has already put Ferrari on the podium in China, Mercedes have already stamped their authority on Australia and Shanghai, and now Suzuka lands at the exact moment when one bold idea could either pull Ferrari back into this fight or push them further behind than the points table already suggests. The hook is not just that Ferrari are chasing Mercedes, it is how they are trying to do it. What no broadcast covered is this: Ferrari are leaning harder into a completely different way of building lap time. One that depends on energy recovery, sharp deployment, and a car concept that looks nothing like the route Mercedes have taken so far. That matters because Mercedes came out swinging with 98 constructors' points to Ferrari's 67 after the first 2 rounds, while Hamilton's podium in China hinted that the real gap may not be as clean as the scoreboard makes it look, and that is where this story gets complicated. Hamilton is the man standing in the middle of all of it. He knows what a title car feels like, he knows what a team on the rise feels like, and he also knows when raw promise still is not enough. Suzuka will test every part of Ferrari's plan at once, from the way the car carries speed to the way it spends energy when the lap starts asking harder questions. The real story was never about the lap time. It was about whether Ferrari's direction is actually closing the gap, and the next part reveals why the numbers from the first 2 races do not tell the full truth. Mercedes have the wins, the points, and the cleanest early season image in Formula 1, but Ferrari are not walking into Suzuka as a team already beaten. That is the trap in reading this championship too quickly. Russell opened the season by taking pole in Australia, and Mercedes backed it up with another win in China through Antonelli, so on the surface, this looks like the kind of start that buries the field before spring is even over. But Ferrari's problem is not that they are nowhere. Ferrari's problem is that they are close enough to believe, yet still far enough behind to force a dangerous response. That pressure shows up in the numbers, but not in the lazy way people read them. Mercedes sit on 98 constructors' points after 2 rounds while Ferrari have 67. And that kind of gap usually screams control. Russell has 51, Antonelli has 47, Leclerc has 34, and Hamilton has 33, so the title picture already has a shape to it. But here's what the paddock is not talking about. Hamilton still dragged the Ferrari onto the podium in China, and that matters because it tells you the SF26 is not completely outgunned. It means Ferrari still have enough underneath them to turn one sharp weekend into a serious shift. That is why Suzuka feels heavier than a normal 3rd round. Ferrari are not trying to protect 2nd place in the pecking order. They are trying to stop Mercedes from turning a fast start into full control before Miami even arrives. If they can make this gap look unstable, the entire title mood changes. If they cannot, then Mercedes stop looking like early leaders and start looking like the team that already owns the shape of this season. And the next part matters because Suzuka is the one circuit that can expose whether Ferrari's recovery plan is real or whether the first 2 races only hid the truth. Ferrari are walking into the one circuit that can expose every weak part of their plan in a single lap. Suzuka is not a place where a team can hide behind one strong sector or one clean straight. It keeps asking different questions, fast direction changes through the opening S's, a slow hairpin that punishes poor exit speed, then the final chicane where the car has to stay calm when everything is loaded at once. That is why this round matters so much. And Suzuka is the 3rd race of the 2026 season, and over 53 laps of a 5.807 kilometer track, it gives Ferrari the kind of full test Melbourne and Shanghai could not. What makes this place even tougher is the way the 2026 cars are built to work. The new rules have pushed the electrical side of performance much harder, with the MGUK now delivering 350 kilowatts and the overall power balance moving far closer to half electrical than before. That means Suzuka is no longer just about courage through fast corners. It is about where the car recovers energy, where it spends it, and whether that rhythm survives an entire lap without breaking the balance. The data tells a completely different story when a track forces every idea in the package to work together instead of letting one strength carry the whole weekend. Oi, that is exactly why Ferrari cannot treat Japan like another normal stop on the calendar. If the SF26 looks alive here, then the belief inside Maranello gets real very fast. If it still looks split between promise and limitation, then Mercedes start to gain something bigger than points. They gain control of the shape of the season before the first major upgrade phase even arrives. And that is where this story turns, because Suzuka does not just test how fast Ferrari are, it tests whether their whole answer to Mercedes begins in the corners before the straight ever arrives. Ferrari are trying to steal lap time from the slowest parts of Suzuka, and that is exactly why this plan feels so dangerous. While Mercedes have looked strongest when the track opens up and the power comes in hard, Ferrari are pushing in the other direction. They want the lap to start paying them back before the straight even begins. That means leaning harder on recovery in the slower corners, asking the car to build energy where other teams are mostly focused on getting clean traction and escaping the turn. Nobody in that garage expected what came next, because this is no longer a small setup tweak. This is Ferrari choosing a completely different path. That choice only makes sense in a season shaped by the new rules. With the MG UK now carrying a much bigger role in how these cars create performance, Ferrari believe the corner exit can become the first step of the attack instead of just the setup for the next straight. Their idea is simple, but the pressure behind it is huge. Keep the engine working harder at lower speed, recover more aggressively, and try to turn that stored energy into a cleaner release later in the lap. The real story was never about the lap time, it was about whether Ferrari could build a different power pattern than Mercedes, not just chase the same one with weaker results. That is what makes Suzuka so brutal for this philosophy. If Ferrari are right, the SF26 starts to look like a car with a real counterpunch. If they are wrong, then every corner becomes a place where they are asking more from the car without getting enough back in return. And that risk is not only mechanical, it lands straight in the hands of the drivers, because once you start changing how the car loads the rear on entry and how it reacts at low speed, trust becomes everything. The next part is where that gamble gets personal. Because Hamilton and Leclerc have to feel this plan before Ferrari can believe in it. Ferrari can believe in this idea all they want, but the first people who have to trust it are Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. That is where the pressure gets real. A plan like this does not live on a laptop once the car leaves the garage. It lives in the braking zone, in the first turn of the wheel, and in that split second when a driver decides whether the rear will stay with him or step away. Suzuka is ruthless with that kind of doubt. One small change in how the car loads up on entry can turn a bold concept into something neither driver wants to lean on when the speed starts rising. That is why Ferrari are asking for more than pace from this package. They are asking for faith. Hamilton already showed in China that he can drag something valuable out of the SF26, taking a podium, while Mercedes still controlled the top of the race, but Suzuka demands a different kind of commitment. Leclerc matters just as much here, because when both Ferrari drivers begin giving the same signals about entry balance, braking feel, and rear support, the team can stop guessing and start choosing a clear direction. And that is where this story gets complicated. A car can be fast on paper and still feel too nervous to unlock everything that speed promises. So this section of the weekend is not about who says the car feels fine in an interview. It is about whether Ferrari can make both drivers attack the lap without that one hidden doubt creeping in at the wrong moment. If Hamilton feels the rear move when he needs stability most, or Leclerc starts protecting the entry instead of pushing it, then the whole idea loses force before the stopwatch even tells the full story. And that leads straight into Ferrari's next risk, because the team are not only changing how the car recovers energy, they may also be bringing back the device that can either unlock the straight line gain or make the balance even harder to trust. Ferrari are not bringing this wing back to Suzuka for attention. They are bringing it back because without it, their whole gamble loses half its punch. The car can recover energy in the slower parts of the lap, but that only matters if Ferrari can cash that energy out when the track opens up and the speed starts building. That is why this wing matters so much. It is not just a strange idea sitting on the back of the SF26. It is the part that is supposed to turn saved energy into real straight line gain. And if it works, Ferrari stop looking like a team chasing and start looking like a team with a real counter move. The reason this feels so risky is because Ferrari already saw how quickly the plan can bite back. In Shanghai, the rotating rear wing was tried in practice, then pulled after balance issues showed up when the front and rear wing movements were not reacting in the same way. Hamilton's spin into the turn 6 braking zone was the warning shot Ferrari could not ignore, and his radio message made it clear the car had crossed the line from bold to unstable. What no broadcast covered is this: Ferrari did not abandon the idea. They took the data, went back to work, and targeted Suzuka as the place where a cleaner version could finally matter. That is what makes this section of the story so important. Ferrari are no longer asking whether the concept is clever. They are asking whether it can survive a real weekend without breaking the car's trust at the worst moment of the lap. If the wing behaves, it becomes the perfect partner for everything Ferrari are trying to build through corner recovery and deployment. If it does not, then one of their biggest weapons turns into another delay while Mercedes keeps stacking results at the front. And that pushes the pressure into an even darker place, because the next layer of this fight is not just about aero or setup. It is about fuel, weight, and whether Ferrari's true deficit runs deeper than the car itself. Ferrari may not be losing this fight in one obvious place. The bigger danger is that several smaller problems are stacking together at the same time. A little extra weight, a package that still needs fine-tuning, and a rival in Mercedes that already looks more complete. That is why Suzuka matters so much. Ferrari are not just trying to find speed. They are trying to prove the SF26 does not have a deeper limit hiding underneath the surface. The pressure gets worse because Mercedes are learning faster across the grid. Their power unit is not only running in the works car, it is also giving extra reference points through customer teams. Ferrari do not have that same spread, so every mistake costs more. Then there is the simple truth every team hates. Once new parts start arriving, weight becomes a silent problem. One gain in one area can drag the car back somewhere else. Oh, and Ferrari cannot afford that while already chasing points. So this is the real tension before the final part of the story. If Ferrari look cleaner and stronger at Suzuka, then the gap can still be attacked through setup, software, and development. If they still look like a car that needs too many perfect conditions, then Mercedes stop looking like early leaders and start looking like the team shaping the whole championship. And that is exactly what the final section has to answer. Ferrari do not need to leave Suzuka as the fastest car on the grid to change the whole feeling of this season. They need to leave with proof. Proof that their direction is working, proof that Mercedes can still be pressured, and proof that this title fight has not already started to lock into one shape. That is why this weekend carries more weight than a normal third round. If Ferrari can make the car look stable, sharp, and alive across the lap, then the story heading into the break changes immediately. Suddenly, this stops feeling like Mercedes building control and starts feeling like Ferrari building a comeback at exactly the right time. That shift would matter because the next phase of the season is where belief turns into action. Miami is the next major checkpoint, and Ferrari needs Suzuka to tell them whether their current path deserves to be pushed even harder. Hamilton is central to that red because he knows when a car is giving a driver something real to work with, and Leclerc is just as important because if both Ferrari drivers point in the same direction, the team can attack the next development window with confidence instead of doubt. Mercedes still hold the stronger hand right now, with Russell leading early and Antonelli already looking like a serious force. But Suzuka can still decide whether that lead feels secure or suddenly vulnerable. So the answer to the question from the start is simple. Ferrari's gamble does not have to beat Mercedes today to matter. It only has to show that the gap is still movable. If it does, then every team meeting, every software change, and every upgrade between now and Miami starts carrying real title weight. If it does not, then Suzuka becomes the first clear sign that Ferrari are chasing a team that already understands this new era better than everyone else. And that is the full weight of this weekend, because by the time Formula 1 leaves Japan, Ferrari will know whether they are building a hunt or watching Mercedes disappear.